Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to Ugly Like Me on the MS&Me Radio Network. We are powered by the MS Global Support Network, which is a worldwide initiative to bring MS awareness, any sort of disease awareness, to different communities, everywhere, wherever you are. Just know that we're reaching out to you and we're trying to hold you up in our arms with love and light, with everything we put out there. I just have to say two things. That disclaimer before I come on air makes me feel so lonely. Like, do you hear what she says about me? She's like, I don't know, Jamie Tributitis, and she's like, she's not a friend of mine. I don't want you to think like we hang out. We don't hang out. We sit at different tables in the cafeteria. I think she dresses funny. The way she dresses has nothing to do with me. So, if you have a problem with her, sue her for all she's worth, which I'm not worth very much, by the way. Well, monetarily. I have different basis of a different standard of what's valuable. But it's so like funny and almost like harsh. Like, wow. So, yeah, they are keeping a distance from me. And you know what? Maybe that's a good thing because I played very sad music today and it's like pensive music. It's not really sad music, but I realize I'm doing what I do with writing. I'm doing this out of an urgency. When I would begin to write, I would most likely be hit like at a light, like a red light, and it was something, an idea would pop into my head, and it was like an urgency, like having to pee. Yes, I am too much information girl, and I will say pee on the radio. It was almost like having to pee, like I had to get it out, and I was not satisfied until like I would lock myself in a room until it was done over and over again. And I realized I was driving and something bothered the crud out of me. And I was like, I need to go home and tell them. So I'm telling you not to start, trouble with family. This is a family issue. But I'm telling you possibly to learn or maybe question, or maybe you guys could help me with this because I don't know if it's just my family. Somebody asked me, okay, also, while I speak, Irma, the Hurricane Irma, is hitting my sister where she's living on Fort Myers Beach Island. Okay, and that's exactly, Irma kind of was a hurricane category 5. All of Miami's been evacuated, etc. But it actually ended up slowing down just as it hit Miami, and it was category 3. So it wasn't as catastrophic as they thought it would be. But then bing, it ricochets off and heads straight to my sister, who's on an island off of Fort Myers where it's headed. And she is in the eye of it, and it would be category 5 if it hits her. And she's with somebody who thinks it's really funny and they should have a hurricane party. And I don't dance with danger. I was like a nutty 20-year-old in New York City doing my thing. And that's what I did. And I had a time for it. And then I did what most of us civilized people call, I grew up. I'm a grown up. I have 2 children. I have a husband. And I'm very protective of my children, but not in a way where I spoil them. Like if they ask me for breakfast, I will make one thing, and if they eat it, cool. That's great. and if they don't like it, cool, that's great. Go find something else that you want to eat in there, like yogurt, I don't know. Make yourself a bowl of cereal with almond milk. I don't care, but I'm not making five breakfasts. My husband will make pancakes in the shape of Picasso paintings. And then on top of it, French toast and eggs and bacon and anything and everything they want. And I'm just not doing that. I want my kids to be resourceful. I want them to be independent, especially Zoe. I worry about her because I think because she was the first one, a little more spoiled, and she didn't know how to do her laundry, and she travels. The older she gets, she's around worldly people who travel and take her with them, and she needs to know how to do these things. So I had to teach her how to do her own wash, which I think she kind of resented it. She might have rolled her eyes, but I call her on that too. She can get away with that with her dad. She can't with me. So I am like really peaceful, like I don't know. Somebody called me Sprite like the other day. I'm very peaceful most of the time, but when it comes to them, I'm pretty stern. Just in that I need them to know how to be resourceful because I don't know how much active time I have left guiding them and mentoring them, and that means that I need to do it now. I don't take my health for granted. And much like Irma, my sister needs to get the heck out of there now. And we've been talking for 3 days. I've been trying, and called today. She was scared. Her partner's like, come over for the hurricane party. It was just a disaster. Anyway, she texts me like hours later that they were on the road, and my fear was that the bridge would be closed and she wouldn't be able to get back inland. My sister has MS. She cannot swim. I don't know if she would know to even look for like water where, if a live wire goes down and it's in the water, she'll get electrocuted. There are a million different scenarios going through my head, and I was worried. So she writes me a thing that they were safe, they were at this place, and blah blah blah. But I didn't realize, or no, maybe she just said they were like in the car and driving. So I didn't realize it was a group message. Okay, guys, always look for the group message. And just so you know, I forgive my sister for doing a group message now. I mean, this is the kind of time where you do that. I hate group messages, especially when they come in the form of jokes. Like, I just don't dig it. And, like, even if I responded to you, I get somebody in, like, California saying, who are you? And it's like, oh, I was just responding to Willie's joke. Sorry. And then it just, like, happens all day. It's just a headache. I don't like group messages. But also, there's a tendency to forget that there are other people reading it. So I didn't think I was friends with my mother. We do not have a relationship. Um, Even my therapists and pastors gave up and just said, I'm sorry, just you're gonna have to walk away if and choose your own family, leave and cleave to the family you made. And if you want to stave off, the progression of this disease, you need to be around certain types of people and people who love you, who don't call you bad names and yell at you and things like that. And things that I realize now were more abusive than I realized when I was growing up and hurt me more than I realized. So, that being said, I must have said too much for my fragile mother to handle. And I got a call from an aunt in Connecticut. And it was something like, please don't tell your mother anything about where your sister is because she's so frail and it'll just make her sick. She can't handle things like that. Okay, she also couldn't handle the fact that I was diagnosed with MS. I lived with her, she completely ignored me. Okay, and this was at a time when I was told I wouldn't be able to walk. I was told a very different thing than my sister. I was beside myself. I was losing my career, my degrees, my family. Everything I worked for in my life was going one by one, and I had nobody to talk to. I just had to take care of these infants with pumps in my arm and just do the best I could. So, health to me is not an excuse not to care for people. Okay, we're sick, we have an illness, but it does not mean that we're not good mothers that love our children and worry about our children and guide them. I'm so worried that I won't be able to actively be involved in my children's lives when they get more complicated that I wrote a book, that I wrote a blog, that I speak on the radio so that they know, like, any adversity they go through, they can get through it. They're so much stronger than they know. I'm so much stronger than I ever knew. And adversity taught me that. And I don't know if it's going to be MS for them. I don't know what it's going to be. But I need them when I can't communicate anymore to have these words and to know them. So, even as I'm being threatened with being in a wheelchair and, not moving from the neck down, I just saw actually, before I say that, just finish my thought. Even as I'm worried about all that, I am fiercely worried about my children, fiercely protective of them when somebody messes with them. I don't think I really cut off certain people in my family until I heard things that they said, that were on tape, and I realized there was nothing to be salvaged, and it was sad. Nobody wants to be like a self-imposed orphan. That's horrible. And I love my parents. I love my parents to death. I can't be around them, and especially when I get things like, don't tell your mother, she's so fragile. She's worried sick. My mother's out eating at Angelo's in Bloomfield, New Jersey. Yeah, I don't think she's really killing herself over there. But me, I do have a lesion, and I apparently my sister's now my daughter because my mother's not supposed to be the one to take care of her. What if all the mothers in the world said, I don't want to hear about it. I can't hear anything bad about my children. I can't handle it. Like they're dainty little flowers that will break. You are not a dainty little flower. You are a beautiful, more of like a beautiful flower in the sense that you're one of those giant sunflowers with the really thick stalks, and you're just beautiful and strong and you can handle everything. You don't turn away loving who you're supposed to love, who you brought into this world, without, you don't turn that away ever. I don't get a doctor's note that says I'm off the hook for caring for my children. I still had to feed my baby at all times in the morning and change his diaper and whatever. I got a couple notes off of work, but they still deducted $200 out of every paycheck. And also, I realized I made a misproclamation, a misstatement. I said that I never applied for disability, and I didn't mean it that way. I actually did apply for disability after the big one hit my neck, the big one, like it's an earthquake. And my doctor said, you can't, you just have to stop. And I was kind of concerned because I didn't know if it was going to happen tomorrow. What if it happens in 20 years and I stopped writing and I stopped living my life? Like, I don't want to stop living if it's not time. I'll hang my hat up when it's time. But I don't know that yet. And so, the disability system in the US is just sort of criminal, and I work with disability justice and I support them to help make it better. Because without a lawyer who's going to take the little bit of money that you get, even though you paid into it since you were 14 years old and now you're like 42, it's nothing. It's nothing, and you have to give part of that away, and that's not fair. It's not fair. And also, the amount of energy and the emotional toll it takes on someone who's sick to go through the process, especially the trial process, and the sickness and the worrying about it. Can I feed my children? Will I be able to survive? Takes a huge toll on your body, and it can progress your illness. And that's why I do get angry, and I do participate, and I do lobby, and I do advocate, because I don't believe that our government should be making us sicker. We pay taxes, a whole lot of money comes out of paychecks. Ever since I was a young girl, I've always worked, and I didn't ask for this. And, a little support would be nice. So I just want to say, in some ways, there are things that we can't take on. I cannot allow toxic people in around me anymore. People who might be jealous of me in some way. And I think my mother was one of them. People who say awful things about me and my daughter, and I have it on tape, which is terrible. It ripped my heart out of my chest. That's what it felt like. It felt like somebody punched me, and I was kind of trying to breathe when I heard it. Terrible things. I cannot. And it's funny. My counselor and my pastor both actually gave up. Like all these years, they gave up. They were like, walk away, Jamie, and take care. Leave and cleave to your family and take care of them and be well. And be around people that inspire you. So that's what I've done. But I also see, we could compare what I did to what my mother's doing with my sister. I'm not supposed to tell her my sister's whereabouts or if she's alive. I don't talk to my mother. So really, that would only be like relayed to my brother, who is also really worried, and he would tell my mother. I suppose that's how that chain would work. I don't know why the aunt was calling me, scolding me not to tell my mother she can't handle it. While she's out to dinner, she's not stressed. She's fine. I'm the one who's stressed. My brother's the one who's stressed. The people who are ill, like really, really, really clinically defined ill people, are the ones that are worrying. And I just want to tell you, there's a time to cut off people, cut off the people who are toxic, who are caustic in some way, like uh, just people that like hurt you. They make you feel bad about yourselves. I'm always told that I'm gross, I'm disgusting, nobody likes me. I couldn't hear that anymore from the person who brought me into this world, because it just made me feel bad and it made me want to do bad things. It put me in a place that was so deep and dark that I really feared for my life, as did the people who took care of me. And so I had no choice. And, that meant I had to let go of my dad too, because he believes what he hears. He doesn't dig much further than his wife, because they see themselves as Bonnie and Clyde for some reason. Uh, so yeah, I'm the black sheep and I'm not allowed to talk, and that's okay. They can perceive me anyway. I don't engage. I don't fix any of the rumors. I don't touch hate with a stick. I think the Dalai Lama taught me that. But also, Maya Angelou has a great, wow, all this love today. Thank you. Maya Angelou has this great quote, and it stays with me all the time. Nobody, nobody, I'm paraphrasing, by the way. This is not like in quotation marks. Nobody will remember your titles, how much money you had in the bank, how impressive you were, how beautiful you were on the outside. Nobody's going to remember that in the end. The only thing they will remember is how you made them feel. And that is exactly how I live my life. And if somebody makes me feel like I don't want to live anymore and I'm hopeless, and she's right, I'm nothing. I've done nothing with my life. I've helped no one. I've had no purpose. I should not be around that person. And for me, sadly, it was my mother. But on the other side of things, I need you guys to know that if you are ill and you have a child, you are not off the hook for caring about that child. I don't care if the child is 5 or 60 and they just need somebody to listen to them, to somebody to mentor them, to speak to them, to guide them through some sort of hardship in their life. You are not off the hook. If you have a child, they're your child for life, whether you're sick or not. We don't get those little, notes from the doctors that say, we get to stay out of school, and, we get to sit out of that one, sit out of that game, sit out of that gym class. No, that's all crap. You have MS. If anything, MS has taught you to be more empathetic, more caring, more of an empath. You can really feel the hurt of people who are hurting. So I can't imagine how people walk away from their children and say, I can't deal with it. So don't tell me if you're alive and survive this hurricane. Just, tell Joe down the street and I'm sure he'll put a letter in my mailbox. That is not okay. I think that the struggle in me is that, I am religious. My parents are not. I don't see myself, I'm still liberal. I'm not like a right wing conservative type of person. But in the religion that I practice, I need to love everybody. And it starts with the home. So I need to create peace in my home. I need to create love in my home. I need to create like a safe haven, even if the walls fall around me and there's nothing there. If my babies feel my body and my warmth, I need them to feel secure and loved. I need to have a certain gentleness at certain times. Other times I'm a little more strict because they need to know how to live when I'm gone. There's a time when I'm going to be living, but I'm going to be living much like, gosh, this was awful. Annette Funicello, Glenn Holt, her second husband, who was her best friend and stayed with her to the end of her life in 2013. protected her from people who had gimmick cures for MS. They wanted to attach the name of their gimmick to her name for fame so that other people would use it. So Glenn in uh, 2013 decided to open his home to show what Annette Funicello's life is since she left the limelight. If you don't know who she is, she was one of the first Mickey Mouse Club Mouseketeers. There were 24 of them. Annette was the 24th, the very last pick and chosen. And she could dance, but she said she couldn't sing. And Walt Disney was like, well, just try. So she sang a song, but she just oozed love and light and all those beautiful things. And she was chosen. So she became like this American hero back then. And her first wedding was, paparazzi everywhere. I guess it was the beginning of paparazzi. And, that didn't last. She was very young. It didn't last. She married Glenn, her best friend, and that was until the end. But when she came back, and I loved all her old movies, I got a special Disney Channel that played only the old Mouseketeers. I didn't like the new, like Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears Mouseketeers. I wasn't into that. I was into the oldies and like all of the old Gidget movies and things like that. So I was really like a fan of hers, and she was super, super big. And she was probably my first idea of what MS was. But the thing is, she disappeared. And I think we might be on the same tip of what our prognosis is, where we're headed. And I don't know, it was probably 2 days ago where I saw what she looked like. I missed the documentary. It's old. It's from like 2013, and I think it's in March of 2013, and she actually ends up dying in April. But it's on YouTube, and you can find it. She's honestly, she looks like she doesn't have legs. They're just that atrophied. She looks more like a torso. Uh, her there's a name, and I can't recall it, for when your arms curl up. CP children get it when their hands. Her body just went so rigid. She was almost in a stone-like in a sitting position and couldn't speak, couldn't swallow. Her husband had to suction her mouth 8 times a night, every night. He would take her for a ride every day in their van, and he would explain what he would see. They lived in Bakersfield, California, so he'd be like, "Okay, baby, on the left side, I see a big crop of cotton, and on the right side are the almonds." And he would just explain and talk to her and treat her like a person. And it was really a beautiful thing in one sense, but in another, I think it was a reminder to me of what I really will be. I think sometimes I forget, like, that this is really real, and it's really progressing, and it's really going to happen. But on some other level, I do get it, because I think I'm the opposite of my mother. I keep thinking, like, what am I going to do when I can't help my kids? Like, I might be here, but I won't be able to speak. Somebody's going to be suctioning my mouth. I'm not going to be able to swallow. They're going to be picking me up and moving me, and that's my existence. And I want my daughter and my son to have a mother, and I want them to know how to face adversity. So I don't understand the mothers that run and say, "Don't tell me, I can handle it." I just think it is so incredibly selfish. So if you do have MS and you're going towards, I don't know, maybe I won't end up there, and that'll be a beautiful thing. But if you do have sort of an understanding of where you're headed, document it. I have a book for my kids so that they know, you know, how I viewed them as children facing adversity, how strong they were. I wrote a blog so that they have a journal of my entire journey and how I faced adversity. And I want them to see that I didn't run away from it. I didn't bury my head in the sand. I faced it, and it actually it opened me up in this new way and led to a whole new world of possibilities that I never, ever considered. I always thought I'd be one thing in my life. I'd be a teacher. And actually, Gloria Steinem, I was at a lecture of hers, and I remember I was at a crossroads in my life, and the MS was getting worse, and I knew I could make a living off of writing because I was writing and teaching. but it was taking a terrible toll on my body. And she looked me in the eyes and she said, "The one thing I wish my elders told me as a child was that I would be more than one thing in my life." She's like, "I wasn't just a publisher. I was this, I was that, I was an advocate, I was a this, any. There are so many things you will be in your life, you know." And um, so she told me that, and I left my teaching job. I really didn't have a choice though, but she made me okay with it, I think. But I need my kids to see that I adapted, that I changed, I did anything I could to help them. And I wanted them to know that in adversity, in the hardest of times, those are the times that will define you. It's almost like a divine appointment, a test of sorts, to see who you are when you're facing that darkness and those depths, those horrible depths. Face it with grace, smile, know that you're held, know that you're loved. You're in the palms of something so big, you can't even fathom it. You're loved that much. So I'm telling my children that right now. I'm telling you that right now. I can't see you. I can't hear your voice, but I do hear you. And I pray for you guys on the other side all the time. I worry that you don't have somebody with you. I worry that you're in those dark pits in our heads, where we can't get out of dark depressions. I think of you all the time, and I pray for you all the time. I pray for the forgotten. You are not forgotten. You are so crazy loved. And that is what ugly like me is. And I'm sorry that I had to come at you in such sort of a sad way, about my personal life. And but if I can use that to teach you and show you, show up for your kids. I don't care if you have MS. You just show up for them. Love, 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 love. You're never off the hook for love. There is no excuse. Be there for people. Love each other. Okay? Keep the toxic people out of your life. Surround yourself by inspiration and be well. You will be well. God bless.